I cannot believe the amount of fig fragrances that have launched in 2022. I mean, I've got 10 fragrances here that I'm going to talk to you about today. 10 fig fragrances that just launched this year, plus a couple of bonuses as well that I'm going to talk to you about. But this must be the year of the fig because there are so many fig fragrances. And I love fig fragrances. Do you guys love fig fragrances? I came to realize this after I went to Neiman Marcus recently with the launch of this new YSL Le Vestiaire collection fragrance called Lavalier. It was an instant purchase right there, fell in love with it, and I realized, God, this is another fig fragrance launched in 2022. Anyway, I've got the list of fig fragrances to talk to you about today, and an unranked list. I'm just going to let you know all the different fig fragrances that I have here and what they smell like. If you're curious to learn about the fig fragrances, then please stay tuned. Thanks so much for tuning in. This is Sebastian. Yes, it's all about fig fragrances today. Could be the leaves, could be the fruit, could be the tree, but it's all figs. Green, fruity, juicy, sweet, bitter, woody. Yeah, all of the stuff happens with fig fragrances. So they use the leaves, of course, they use the tree itself and the fruit. So it goes in multiple different directions, and I've got various different styles here that I think you're gonna like if you like fig in fragrances. It could be that you only like the green parts of the fig or the woody parts, or maybe you like the fruity parts more than the green parts. But we cover all of it here, and as I said, they're going in different directions. Let's go ahead and talk about the first one, which is Lavalier from YSL. This is a fragrance that just launched, at least it just made itself here to San Francisco's Neiman Marcus, where they carry the Le Vestiaire collection of fragrances. You know, it's interesting, Baby Cat still hasn't come here. I had no idea what's going on with that fragrance, and that is the one that's really, really hotly wanted. I know a lot of people want it, but it's not easy to get. And as soon as I find out about that fragrance, you know, launching here in Neiman Marcus, San Francisco, or at least if I discover somewhere else, I'll tell you guys about it. But let's go back to this. So this was a love at first sniff and an instant buy. I smelled it and I wanted it. It's funny because I spoke to someone about this and they got me excited about it, and that's why I kind of was really anxious to go to Neiman Marcus and smell it. But it does feature fig, rose, bergamot, blackcurrant, geranium, jasmine, vetiver, cashmere, and a musk. This to me is very fruity, and I get light greenness in here, and I spoke about it in a new fragrances launching soon video. For me, I feel like it's taking Rouge Trafalgar from Dior's Privé collection, adding it to something like L'Ombre dans l'Eau from Detique, and then maybe adding something rosy in here because there's a major dosage of rose. And I didn't realize rose and fig would work great together. It works magical here. It's just really, really beautiful. I find it to be quite unisex, although it might lean a tad bit feminine. But man, I think come summer, spring and summer, this one's going to be really delicious. It's very juicy, fruity, and you definitely, you know, experience that juiciness of the it's almost like you're wearing fruit juice, but very concentrated form of it along with rose. But you know, it's very rosy, it's very figgy, it's fruity fig and also greenness. There's lots of citruses in here that's kind of contributing to the juiciness. And of course, we've got woods and flowers in here, and of course the musk. So Lavalier is the first fig fragrance I'm going to talk to you about today. Moving on to the House of Houbigant, this is Figuier Noir. This one right here, a male targeted release. If you know the brand of Houbigant, if you see fragrances in these bottles, you'll know it's a male targeted release. And for me, out of all the fig fragrances I'm going to talk to you about today, this is the most masculine. Really, really definitely captured that whole masculine edge about this particular fragrance. And definitely, if you're only into wearing masculine fragrances and you want to delve into some fig fragrances, definitely try this one. It's created by Céline Elena, who is the daughter of Jean-Claude Elena. Jean-Claude Elena has done a few fragrances for Houbigant and also Houbigant's sister brand, Paris Monte Carlo. So of course now they're using, or they're having the daughter of master perfumer Jean-Claude Elena create fragrances. For me, this particular fig fragrance is mostly actually it's the woody side of the fig with the leaves. So there's no fruits here. I don't get any fruitiness whatsoever. Eventually, though, I shouldn't say I don't get them. I do get them, but it's more in the dry down. As it's drying, it becomes a little fruity. But for me, the leaves and the woods that are in here are overpowering. According to my research, it features fig leaves, black pepper, cardamom, black figs, iris, cedar, candied figs, patchouli, jasmine, and cloves. Yeah, they mentioned there's the candied figs and also the black figs. Not too sweet. Black figs to me are, well, they can be sweet when they're kind of really ripe, but for me, I feel like the figs in here, the fruit itself is very young, so there's not much sweetness, because this fragrance does not get very sweet for me, and when you first spray it, it's ultra peppery. For me, the leaves of the fig tree are all very peppery to begin with, green and bitter, but they also have the black pepper here, so it's a very peppery start. If you like that kind of a thing, you should definitely check it out. Of course, the other spices develop like cardamom, and then some flowers and some spices and earthy notes come through as well. But it's a very woody green experience here, and it's focusing on the leaves with lots of woods. Of course, the pepper is really strong as well. So that's Figuier Noir from the House of Houbigant. So moving on to a completely different fig fragrance, completely different from the first two. And we've got a unisex one here, definitely a unisex offering. It's from the House of Floris. This is Mulberry Fig. It's a perfume created by Niccolo Pozzani and Penny Ellis. So I didn't mention a name for the Lavalier. I couldn't find one. I don't know why they're not publicizing the name for that one. I really love it. I also love Baby Cat, as I said, from that brand. But here we got Nicola Pozzani and Penny Ellis. I don't know these perfumers, but they've created something sweet and pretty. And it is unisex. I feel like it might lean a little feminine. It's got a very innocent kind of a vibe here with the fig here. It's kind of very light and also sweet, and I feel like there's the fruits in here in addition to the leaves as well. So you do have the green touches here, and of course the fruitiness. But it does feature fig, iris, cypress, cardamom, vetiver, amyris, sandalwood, cedar, amber, coconut, and violet leaves. So this particular fragrance and the last one from Houbigant do kind of have reminders of other fragrances that feature fig. Lavalier, to me, as I said, didn't remind me of a fig fragrance, but then it reminded me of a few other fragrances combined. But the Figuier Noir and Mulberry Fig will remind you of some other fragrances. Of course, they go in different directions. For me, this is a sweet one, and it has a very innocent quality to it. It has a fruitiness, but it also becomes kind of lightly beachy from the coconut, and I think the coconut's there to kind of give it a fig milk quality. There's ozonic touches and lots of woody touches, but I think it's a gorgeous scent. Just has kind of an innocence written all over it. I don't know why I get that from this one. Just pure, like there's a purity about this one. Unadulterated, I guess, is another word I should say. But I think it's a great fragrance. For me, this one is perfect for spring and summer. And it's interesting that I'm doing a fig fragrance video today, one of two that I've done this year. Normally I do them spring and summer, but I'm doing it in the autumn here, and I think you can get away with wearing these in the autumn, but this particular fragrance, Mulberry Fig, is definitely a spring and summer fragrance, and that's from the House of Floris. Up next, we're going to the House of Mind Games, and we've got Castling here, a fragrance created by Christelle Laprade for the brand. I believe she's done several of the fragrances for Mind Games, and this is another fig fragrance, and this one for me is fig leaves, so it's kind of going into the green direction, but under there's a little bit of a fruitiness that doesn't really shine too much, but it features fig leaves, iris, vetiver, sandalwood, vanilla woods, skin musk, freesia, lotus, bergamot, and fleur de sel. Does have a light marine aquatic thing happening, and I get that from the lotus flower, and of course with the addition of the fleur de sel in here, the salt, the sea salt, you do have a kind of a marine thing happening with the lotus giving you that kind of watery effect, and the fleur de sel giving you the saltiness. But in the end, it's very woody, earthy, a bit powdery, and green. And again, the fruitiness is not overly strong. So if you're into the idea of green leaves and things like that from figs rather than the fruits, this is definitely one you should try. The brand is fairly new, and their fragrances are pretty intense. It's an Extrait de Parfum concentration, so definitely if you're into the idea of long-lasting fragrances, look into this particular one called Castling from the House of Mind Games. This next one is such a breath of fresh air for me as a fig fragrance. I'm obsessed with the way it smells. It's from the House of Manos Gerakinis. This is Methexis, this one right here. Wow, it's so good. I can see why. It's created by Chris Maurice. I kind of really dig that guy's fragrances, and his creations are so delicious. He does do really good ouds. and he does really great gourmands, and to me this is a gourmand fig. And the reason I like this one is you experience the fruits of the fig, of course, and you also experience the greens, and the blending is so delicious. It's cocoa, vanilla, figs, dried fruits, benzoin, honey, musk, amber, cinnamon, vetiver. So if you like the idea of gourmand fragrances but kind of having a green contrast running throughout it along with the fruitiness of the fig, this is definitely one for you to try. The cocoa in here gives you a kind of a milk chocolatey effect, with the vanilla adding the sweetness and syrupiness. I think it's really delicious, guys, and I think this one is a perfect autumn winter fragrance because it has the gourmand touches, which I feel like are perfect to wear in the cold of autumn and winter, if that makes sense to me. Well, to you, but to me it does. That's why I like this one, just because it's a very unique gourmand fragrance with figs. And of course you've got the dried fruits in there, and I always associate dried fruits with autumn as well. So Methexis from the house of Manoscera Aquinas, wonderful fragrance from that house. I love that creation. They've got some great fragrances. At least that one has now become my favorite from Manoscera Aquinas, in addition to Immortelle. But moving on to the house of Obvious Parfums, this is Un Fig, another really great fig fragrance. Really wonderful fig fragrance, actually. It smells fantastic. This one, to me, it's the contrast of marine notes with fig greenness. Hardly any fruits in this one. I think we're focusing on the greens. If you think about fragrances like Philosophus and Premier Figuier, both for fragrances created by Olivia Jacobetti for Diptyque and L'Artisan Parfumeur, you know, those are kind of just green focused, not any fruits in it. And especially since both of those have coconut, so it gives you that kind of coconut fig milk experience. Here, to me, we're going to a fig tree grove along the coast, where you get the marine sea breeze hitting your face. You're smelling the green leaves. You're walking through that grove, lots of trees. You know, the figs might be blooming, but they haven't really, you know, blossomed into fruit yet. So you're basically just smelling it, and it's a warm day. So in warm days, the smell of trees kind of like amplify. So you're not only smelling the sea, you're smelling the fig trees. That's the kind of fragrance this is, and I think it's a really great job, well done. I think they've done a great job with it. It does feature fig, Immortelle, marine notes, rosemary, yellow tangerine. Wonderful fragrance. This line is so underrated, and they've got some really great fragrances. I highly recommend this one. This is Un Fig from the house of Obvious Parfums. Alright, up next, going to the house of Essential Parfums, another one that launched in 2022. Remember, all of these fig fragrances launched in 2022. This is Fig Infusion, the creation by Nathalie Lorson for Essential Parfums. And you know, Nathalie has done a great job here. Once again, we've got light, sweet, citrusy touch here with this one, and a very cozy touch. There's black tea note in this, and it gives you that kind of like a very relaxing, soothing kind of the touch with the fragrance. But it features fig, black tea, mandarin orange, orange blossom, sandalwood, cedarwood, benzoin. Benzoin adds that kind of sweet ambery touch in the base. Of course, it becomes very woody and kind of ambery in the dry down. Of course, sandalwood, cedarwood with the benzoin, you got woods and amber, but there's definitely citrus presence here. You definitely pick it up. The orange blossom and the mandarin orange really work wonderfully together to contrast with the greenness of the fig, and I feel like this one is figs and fig leaves, the fruits and the fig leaves itself, so there's definitely kind of a greenness here and fruitiness, and of course that black tea is going to give you that kind of very cozy vibe. Anytime I have tea in a fragrance, they go very cozy for me. So it's Fig Infusion from Essential Parfums. Great scent from the house of Essential Parfums created by Nathalie Lorson. We've got another fragrance here from BDK Parfums. This is Gris Charnel Extrait. So this is an extrait version of the original Gris Charnel, and you know, my preference is this particular one, although I do like that kind of thinner version of this original fragrance. This one, just you can experience the thickness of the fragrance because it's concentrated with the oils, and it features patchouli, vanilla, fig, iris, black tea, cardamom, cistus labdanum, vetiver, and tonka beans. This one also features tea, but these are completely different fragrances, I should say. They were completely different. Of course, this is a EDP, this is extrait, so you're going to experience the concentration here, but they definitely were totally different. I feel like here we got a little bit more of a fruitiness from the fig in comparison to the Essential Parfums, where you do have the fruitiness, but you also have the greenness, because I don't get the greenness from here. But the tea is also very prominent here, and there's a very sweet vanillic earthy patchouli touch in here that's really prominent against the fig and the black tea note. Anyway, really beautiful fragrance. It's Gris Charnel X-Ray from the house of BDK Parfums. Definitely worth checking out. And then this next fragrance is from a house called Narcisse Taormina, and this is Montivener, a new one that I discovered while I was on trip in Europe. This is, once again, a very fresh fig fragrance wearing experience, but you've got citruses here contrasted with the leaf. Doesn't get very fruity for me, and I like this contrast of this bitter greenness against the citrus juiciness in this particular fragrance. In addition to the fig leaves and the mandarin orange and the citron here, we've got ambergris, patchouli, we've got ebony wood, cedar, rose, and jasmine. For me, it's not necessarily about a lot of flowers. You do have that light presence of rose and jasmine in here, but for me, it's more about the fig leaf with the citruses, and of course that kind of lightly animalic, salty, marine-ish type of touch with the ambergris note. So this is Narcisse Taormina Montivener. Let me know if you guys know this house and if you've sampled their fragrances. I think it's a house that's from the southern part of Italy, so they come in these really beautiful boxes, and definitely worth checking out. So a great fig fragrance. And then finally, the last fragrance I'm going to talk to you about today is Fig de Vertu from the house of Angelo's Creations Olfactive. This is it right here. And if you guys remember, in my Scent Club kit number 1, Eau de Vertu was featured in it. This is a flanker to Eau de Vertu. It's the fig version of Eau de Vertu. I don't know if you guys have tried Eau de Vertu, but if you got my, the Scent Club kit number 1, you would have sampled that particular fragrance. It was one of my favorite fragrances. So this is a flanker to that. It's a fig take on that particular fragrance and definitely has a figgy presence. But it also has coconut, fig, lime, mimosa, caramel, sandalwood, ambergris, salt, ginger, tuberose, mineral notes, musk, oak moss, and you name it. Go on and on and on. It's very musky and powdery for me, and definitely a very fig take on it. And I feel like the coconut addition in this particular fragrance gives you that kind of fig milk touch. Anybody that's played around fig trees knows that when you pick up off the fruit or the leaves, there's little milky droppings from that particular tree and the fruits itself. So it's sticky. So I think the addition of the coconut in this and a lot of other fig fragrances gives you that kind of milky effect, which is definitely the right thing to do when making fragrances. So if you like the idea of Eau de Vertu, if you've sampled it and you haven't tried this one, but you like the idea of like a figgy version of Eau de Vertu, definitely try Fig de Vertu from the house of Angelo's Creations Olfactives. Anyway, that's the last fragrance I'm talking about today. Lots of fig fragrances, right? Are there any others that you might have sampled? Let me know, put a comment down. This is all I have access to, and I wanted to highlight them for you guys because I know there's a lot of fig fragrance lovers out there, and I couldn't believe that 2022 has so many. I'm sure there's probably like 10, 15, or 20 more that have launched that I haven't got my nose on, but definitely these are solid fig fragrances that you should get your nose on. Anyway, guys, thanks so much for watching today's video. If you have any questions or comments, please list below. Please like this video, please share it, follow me on Instagram and Facebook, and I'll be back with more videos very soon. Have a good one. Goodbye. So I do have a couple of bonus options for you guys. One of them actually launched in 2021. I just discovered it in 2022 from the house of Mancera. It's actually Fig Ecstasy. I spoke a lot about this one, and I think it's definitely a solid fragrance. And it's a great fig fragrance that the house of Mancera, or its sister house, Montal, would do. And I feel like Mancera is kind of doing a lot better fragrances these days than Montal. Are you guys kind of noticing that? This is Fig Ecstasy, and it's a great smelling fragrance. Really wonderful. For me, this has notes of fig leaf, fig milk, leather, sandalwood, incense, and ginger. It doesn't really have a fruitiness, but definitely has the kind of performance of a Mancera fragrance. Not necessarily uber beast mode like red tobacco, but definitely has great longevity, and it smells fantastic. I really think you guys should get your nose on this one, especially if you are a fan of fig fragrances, because I think Mancera did a great job on that one, and nobody talks about it. Maybe fig fragrances are not the biggest or most hyped notes in fragrances. I'm a Mediterranean guy, so I love the smell of fig trees and leaves and fruits and things like that, so I always talk about them. And then finally, the last fragrance I'm going to talk to you about is one that I did a review of a couple of a week and a half ago with Jessica, if you haven't caught it. It's for the house of Atelier de Orange. It's called Frustration. And I don't know about this particular fragrance featuring figs. It's, for me, a vanilla, lightly boozy, nutty fragrance with a chestnut touch. Very, very woody, of course. But in the advertising, they are showcasing figs and the fruit. Maybe there's a little bit of a fruitiness, not much, but I don't really get much of the fruitiness. I get more booziness, and the booziness for me is not ultra intense either. But the thing is, the other day I had 2 clients come in and do a sniff session in here, and one of them was mentioning how she thought it was very boozy. So it's very interesting how noses pick up certain things, because I'm not getting much booziness with this one, and she was, and noses are really, really different. But as far as the fig goes, I don't know if there's fig here. It's very lightly on the fig, but the advertising, campaign uses it, so I feel like I should highlight it in case you guys want to check it out, especially since it also comes in a beautiful red bottle, as you can see. So that's the last fragrance, Frustration, from the house of Atelier de Orange. Anyway, see you guys later. Bye-bye.